Ready to go? Okay. I'd like to call to order the regular scheduled IDA board meeting. As standard practice, the minutes of our last meeting were previously distributed, and unless there are any corrections or comments, I would like a motion to approve, please. Thank you, Susan. A second. Thank you, Bob. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay, we'll move right into our Chief Financial Officer report, please, Mark.
Thanks, Chair. So in the month of July, we did have one closing, 1211 Washington Avenue did close. The other revenue, we had a couple application fees and interest. The expenses you see there were approved by the board as part of the 21 budget or approved during the year. We do anticipate more closings to happen throughout 2021. We're projecting ending cash to be approximately almost a little less than $3.5 million at the end of the year.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Okay, we'll move right into unfinished business, please. Our first project is TR Hackett, LLC. Ready?
Sure. I can give a brief description of the project. The project has previously been discussed at both the Finance Committee and board level, and a public hearing was held for this project previously as well. There were no comments submitted either in person or via email or in writing for this project. CR Hackett LLC, the project proposes to construct an approximate 60,000 square foot, 4-story market rate apartment complex containing approximately 39 residential units. Currently vacant, 3/4 of an acre project site approximate will also include 44 off-street covered parking.
As Andy has said, we've discussed this project several occasions, most recently at the last Finance Committee meeting. We have 4 resolutions to consider today, and I will start with the SECOR resolution. It's a resolution concurring in the determination by the City of Albany Planning Board as lead agency for the environmental review of the TR Hackett LLC project. Do I have a motion? Thank you. A second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The second resolution determining that the proposed TR Hackett project is a commercial project and making certain findings required under the general municipal law. Do I have a motion? Lee, a second. Tony, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The next resolution authorizing a deviation from the agency's uniform tax exemption policy in connection with the proposed payment in lieu of tax agreement to be entered into by the agency in connection with the proposed project for TR Hackett LLC. Do I have a motion? Move, Lee, a second. Tony, thank you. All those in favor?
Prior to calling the vote, I'd just like to note that the vote in front of you today is a deviation from our standard income tax exemption policy. As such, we do like to just pause to talk a little bit about the features of the project that make it worthy of a deviation. That has been talked about the finance found in the documents. It'll be also in all of the documents we talk about stormwater mitigation measures. Really filling up an underutilized site, as well as providing housing options for employees of the district, all as
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, I'll just go back to all those in favor. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Resolution passes. And our final resolution is a resolution authorizing the execution of documents in connection with the leaseback transaction for a project for TR Hackett LLC. Do I have a motion? Lee, a second? Tony, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Ron. Okay, our next project is 191 North Pearl. Andy, please.
Thank you. 91 North Pearl Street LLC. The project proposes to construct an approximate 26,000 square foot, 4-story market rate apartment complex containing approximately 18 market rate residential units. Currently vacant 0.21 acre project site will also include approximately 15 off-street covered parking spaces. As with the previous project, this project has been discussed at the finance committee and board levels. A public hearing was held previously. No comments were received in relation to that public.
With that, we have 4 resolutions. The first being resolution concurring in the determination by the City of Albany Planning Board as lead agency for the environmental review of the 191 North Pearl LLC proposed project. Do I have a motion? Lee, second. Tony, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, our second resolution determining that the proposed 191 North Pearl LLC project is a commercial project and making certain findings required under the general municipal law. Do I have a motion? Tony, a second.
I'll take that.
Lee, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Guys have spoiled me in the past. Got it. Okay. So our next resolution is authorizing a deviation from the agency's uniform tax exemption policy in connection with the proposed payment in lieu of tax agreement to be entered into by the agency in connection with the proposed project for 191 North Pearl LLC. Do I have a motion?
Same comment?
If you want to make the same comments related to this being a deviation.
Thank you. Do we have a second, Tony? Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And finally, we have a resolution authorizing execution of documents in connection with the leaseback transaction for a project for 191 North Pearl. Do I have a motion? Tony, second. Lee, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Ron. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move right into new business, which is the election of officers. As you guys know, today is my last board meeting, so it is important that we elect effective September 1st. So we do have a resolution in our packet that just electing chair, but at this point we'd like to, slate of officers have been proposed.
You have had nominations
Yes.
for chair, Susan Petto for chair, Lee for vice chair, and Tony for secretary.
So with that, I would like to read the resolution approving the election of the chair and other officers, including treasurer, secretary, and vice chair. Do I have a motion? Lee, and you can vote for yourself. You have to or one. So we have a motion from Lee. A second, please. Tony, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. And thank you all for um, taking the time to consider these positions and for agreeing to serve. Yes.
Thanks to everybody who offered to step up. We have some big shoes to fill. Tracy's now departure. Sarah will lead us through, I'm sure, as she has in the past. Tracy and I have been on this board together for a very long time. And I've served also with a number of other chairs as well. I can't recall a chair ever being so involved in providing such strong and intelligent leadership for this board. And thank you enough. The entire city for what you've done. It's been a lot of work. And I think slowly but surely, everybody who's joined this board has come to realize that you don't know when you first join exactly how much you're signing up for, nor do any of us have the slightest comprehension of all of the work that you've actually done. But I see staff in particular nodding. They are well aware because they see and hear from you. Tracy's just done an look forward to your continued involvement, not only with your input on economic development throughout the city, but other plans that you have as well, and we're looking forward to doing all that.
Thank you very much. Kind words. And I'm looking forward to being on the other side and watching all of you move forward. The city needs this board and the investment that we are the ones that have the tool to help our developers invest in the city and increase our tax base. And I do think we have a lot to be proud of behind us, but there's a lot that's going to be coming. So I'm always on the other end of the phone. Certainly. Okay, with that, let's go on to other business.
I'm going to turn it over very quickly here to Ashley. I do want to note for the record that we are in a new location today that had been noticed publicly with every extenuating circumstance, which is as quickly as possible. We are looking to it's helpful to use some larger location going forward. What the public will notice on YouTube is that there are people joining us via Zoom. We are not holding our meeting on Zoom. We are holding our in public in person at the Capitol Center. The participants on Zoom are here listening in. We also have counsel doing circumstances that necessitate remote. But other than that, participants in the meeting or those that administrative plug over. We've seen two pretty impactful presentations. Move on to Ashley give us an update really a year later on the small business adaptation program, where we are and what's here. So a little bit of a refresher. I asked her to do that because it has been a year, and it's what a year it has been to remember the details of what this is. So that thing.
Yeah, and it's for the most part it's a feel-good update. Some really good stories here. So a good way to end cap your tenure here with the board with this important program as well. So as you recall, the Small Business Adaptation Program was really a COVID-19 response program for small businesses and nonprofits in the city of Albany. The program was made possible with the Industrial Development Agency's support and the support of the Albany Community Development Agency. Those two funding sources really combined to create a really flexible program that could do a number of things that you see on the slide. Reopening, retraining, restocking, reorganizing, and reimagining are sort of how we've called the 5 R's all throughout this. You see the reopening on the slide because that's where, separated on the slide, because that's where the CADA funding was focused based on the authorizing legislation. Those grants were allowed to do things related to PPE, personal protective equipment. So face coverings, masks, gloves, cleaning supplies, things like that. That's where the focus with that grant was. Where the CDBG stepped in, they came in with restocking of food items or other perishable goods or other necessities related to, using the outdoor space more frequently, so chairs, tables, things like that, to really make this program a success. As you recall, it was for small businesses or nonprofits not greater than 50 full-time equivalent employees. They had to be open and operating prior to March 2nd, 2020, and they had to have a physical office or commercial storefront located in the city of Albany and conduct those operations in the city of Albany. Delay, and I went too far. I don't know. There we go. As a reminder, this internal review process for this program was rigorous on the staff side. We really wanted to do that to make sure that we were checking all the boxes in terms of eligibility and compliance, and really make it as easy as possible on the applicant. So you'll see here on the slide, the priorities heavily prioritized disadvantaged business enterprises in this program. So that included minorities and women and veteran-owned businesses. That was in terms of awarding as well as the maximum funding amount. Because if you remember, we had a $10,000 maximum for any business, but DBEs were eligible to up to $20,000, so $10,000 per funding source max. And then we also prioritize things like low to moderate income owned microenterprises, so 5 or fewer employees. Target geographies in the city, such as neighborhood strategy areas defined by Albany City Development Agency and distress census tracts. Those are some of the priorities, and then you see just all the other general parameters. As a reminder, the awards went throughout the city, citywide. There was 43 awards in those neighborhood strategy areas. And 58 awards out of the 60 were in highly distressed census tracts. So that was amazing as far as that coverage. And then in terms of overall stats as well, 36 of the 60 grantees were disadvantaged business enterprise, or 60% of the overall awardees. In terms of number of awardees, when you talk about the dollar amount awarded, you'll see that jumps up to 78% after you've had to transfer some of the nonprofits over to ACDA directly to manage those awards for eligibility purposes. So those came out of the numbers, and with those coming out of the numbers, they jumped up to 78%, because as you know, nonprofits don't have owners, so that affects sort of those figures there. And also through this, we had 20 low and moderate income microenterprise owners, so about a third were microenterprises. As far as payments to date, payments getting out of the door, we have nearly 200,000 out. So that's close to 40% of the total awards. You'll see the CADA disbursement is a little on the lower side. People have found with the PPE, it's been a little bit more challenging to get people to draw that. They either purchased some of those PPE things prior to the authorizing legislation being approved, or they've had donations, or they've found other ways to get that. So there's been lots of a request on that, but still being successfully used. And when pairing with the CDBG, people are finding great success with it. What will boost the numbers even more is we have about 14 reimbursements currently pending in the review process. So, the applicants have submitted some invoices. We're working with them to get additional invoices, that kind of thing. Once we get all those processed, if they take their full awards, that'll bump the disbursement up to more than 330K. So we'll be up to almost 70% at that point.
Is there a cutoff for the deadline?
So their project completion date was originally June 30th. We do have the opportunity to allow them to have extensions if they request one, if they need more time to complete their project. Most people, I think, have completed their project. They're working on getting the documentation into us. And then the ultimate end goal is the end of October to have everything wrapped up and have this closed out.
So if people who are requesting extensions, could they even go through the wave that we're looking at now?
Yes, potentially. You know, on a case-by-case basis, we'll take a look at what they're requesting. We obviously don't want to go too far out because we want people to be able to wrap up within the 1 year. But we want to take a look at the needs and have people maximize their awards. So about a third of the grantees have received at least one of their checks. 18 grantees have been fully paid out from all of their applicable funding sources. We've executed nearly 90% of both grant agreements, so pretty much everybody has decided to go forward. There's a handful that, for whatever reason, they thought a funding use was eligible that wasn't, and so since we can't pay back rent and things like that, they're out. Or the business closed, but it's been really minor in terms of that. Most people are moving forward.
What do you think the biggest challenge has been with them getting their paperwork together?
Well, I think keeping those records is a challenge for, I think, many small business owners, and keeping them, having that kind of documentation as far as the proof of payment and the invoice and pulling that all together and getting it over to us. I think, the organization required to keep that file paperwork of the paper trail of all that is challenging. They're running their businesses full time. There's not a lot of time to be, making, immaculate paper records, but we're getting them to that point. So that's great.
And the team has been really great about time and energy, spending time with business owners. So Ashley, Nora, and Renee, and Nora in particular, now is sort of front office worker that is working with businesses. Sometimes it is a box of receipts that get handed, and it's working through those and trying to help to organize. We like to have things in as organized as possible, that it is easy to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's important as a small business owners are just not paying attention to what that documentation, even though they signed that they would provide it, what it entails. I mean, with their hands. So it's true for future funding as well. As a reminder that the amount of time that staff needs to spend to system to not go unnoticed.
Well, the reason for that is twofold, too. It's one, to ensure that we're complying with all of the regulations, both on the ID legislation side, but also on the federal side. We're, as an organization, we're not putting our organization at risk, but it would also ultimately put the business at risk. If we took the box of receipts and it was missing however many for the masks that they bought in May of last year, there is the potential that a funding source could come back and say, we need to recapture that fund from the small business. And what a disaster that would be to tackle a small business that had been struggling through the pandemic and work with them for that. So we're just making sure that we're as organized, as detailed as possible to ensure compliance on all fronts.
Definitely a capacity issue. Most business owners, small businesses, working in their business, have the on their business, kind of experience that during PPP, is having an attorney and accountant to have all of that in order for you. You don't have to rush to get it together. One of your best practices. It's definitely a challenge with small business and nonprofit. Focus more on their business aspect. But it's still a business, and you got to do these things. So.
And like Sarah said, staff has been great with that. Nora and Renee have been. If they can get permission to call a vendor and get a receipt directly or things like that, that can help. If the business owner wasn't able to provide it, we would try to do that. Or scanning in that box of receipts for the folks that don't, if they have a restaurant depot receipt that's 3 feet long, they might not necessarily have the ability to do that. And so, we've been stepping up, that game. and using camera scanners or whatever we have to do to be able to like get those documents online and available for us to review remotely if needed. So with all that, we wanted to take the opportunity to be able to share some grantee profiles, really of this assistance wouldn't have been possible without this board's support. So we really wanted to take a moment and be able to have you guys, sort of see and hear from the business owners' own voices, things that they said about this grant program. I'll have a little bit more color on these than what's on the slide, so I'll probably read from what I have. We have Irie Vibes first up. It's obviously a restaurant serving Jamaican cuisine. It's located on Central Avenue. It's been there for more than 7 years. They identified themselves as a DVE at time of application. And straight from the business owner at the time of submitting their reimbursement paperwork, they stated that COVID started hitting restaurants very hard in March 2020. The years 2020 and 2021 have been very difficult for everyone, restaurant owners in particular. In September of 2020, we received the exciting news that we were being awarded a grant from Capitalize Albany. The grant gave us the opportunity to stay afloat and continue providing income to our employees to support their families. So, I think these are helpful to hear from many perspectives. When the work becomes rolling, it's great to see the good work that is going on with these programs. This business got masks, gloves, and bleach with their CATA grant, and then with CDBG, they purchased perishable goods, so mostly meat, for their restaurant. Nocturnal Cookies. This is a woman-owned business now located in downtown that provides freshly baked cookies, ice cream, and milk deliveries. They are a DVE and a microenterprise. And so this business, they were impacted by the pandemic, coming from the business owner herself, as they had to close during the day, since most of the businesses that purchased their cookies during the day were shut down. At the same time, our night business increased significantly due to the increased demand for food deliveries. We lost nearly 100% of our day sales, but tripled our night sales. As such, the SBAP grant assistance allowed us to hire 1 full-time manager and 3 additional in-house staff members, along with 3 additional drivers, to meet the increased demand for the nighttime food deliveries. It allowed us to purchase additional equipment to meet the increase in demand of our products. And as you'll see on the slide, without the additional equipment and staff, we could not handle the volume of orders we currently have. Losing the day sales and not being able to handle the increase in volume of night sales would have put us out of business. We were also able to ensure that our staff and customers are protected against the virus due to us being able to purchase sufficient PPE, which the grant allowed us to do. Without this PPE, we would have only been able to offer deliveries, but now we can accept pickups and walk-ins, which accumulate up to 40% of their sales.
What's interesting about that one, just to note, particularly for the record for CATA, is that was a profitable business pre-COVID. They were brand new, and they were just in growth mode, and so the pandemic would have put this brand new business out of business entirely by not being able to pivot their business model. So this is an interesting one where this is a long-standing business that was helped, but this is somebody who had just had their dream come true, owning their own business, starting to operate, and the pandemic pulled the rug out from under them, and I was able to help them with that.
Yeah, they weren't able to show the dip in revenue that most businesses were able to show, but we're seeing that this would have killed their business either way without assistance.
And they just moved as well.
Yes. Amongst all the other difficulties that they have had to deal with this pandemic, they lost their business location. So they had to move to the new location. They lost their lease. They're doing well, so that is good. And then we have Kismet Mediterranean, obviously a Mediterranean restaurant located in Albany Pine Hill neighborhood. This business is a DVE and also a microenterprise. As the business owner said, the SBAP grant was very helpful during these unprecedented times. We had a very challenging period, especially during autumn to winter. We could provide all employees with necessary masks, gloves, hand sanitizers, et cetera, which would normally cost us additional. The big help was to build our own website and online ordering system, so that was through the CDBG side. Normally, we were cooperating with third-party apps like Grubhub, Uber Eats, and they were charging us about 25 to 30%. So by building our own system, we could move some portion of third-party orders to our own system where we could reduce the fees to only 5%. We aim to move most of the volume from third-party to our own website, which will significantly lead significantly to less costs and improve their profit margin. So we've heard that time and time again, that those, the food delivery companies, sort of those upcharges were really affecting the bottom line of the small businesses. Sometimes they were being added to apps that they didn't, ask to be added to, and then we're subject to, paying those fees. So being able to kind of take that initiative and, take charge of their own destiny with that CDBG grant was helpful, along with the PPE on the CADA side. Betty Boop's Diner, a neighborhood diner located at 115 Phillip Street, and the Mansion Diner. This is a woman-owned business and a microenterprise. Really what she's saying is hoping to get back to normal again, just wanting people to come back and feel safe and comfortable and come there and not get sick. If it's ever the new normal, she says, I don't know, but I want people to come in after church and sit down for 2 or 3 hours or just enjoy their day. So she was able to purchase masks and face shields and hand sanitizer with her CADA grant and a hand sanitizing station with her CADA grant. And then on the grantee profile side, last but not least, we have the Yard Hatchet House and Bar. This is a woman-owned business located in downtown, quite a unique venue, complete with indoor lawn and league hatchet cages for axe throwing. They also have a variety of lawn games like cornhole, ladder ball, and others. As part of her pivot during the pandemic, the owner, Layla, started making alcohol and infused ice cream. So this is also the new home to the Boozy Moo. If you haven't tried it, I encourage you to go down and try the ice cream or the drinks. They're amazing. Not only was this business an XBAP grantee, but it was also a location that was funded through the Downtown Retail Grant. Prior to the pandemic, she was actually gearing up for her official launch of the business when everything shut down. So you may have seen Layla in the press a few times. She's hit hurdle after hurdle with her business, but still thriving and pushing through with her different unique concepts with the Boozy Moo and the axe throwing. And so you'll see here, the grant allowed her to buy PPE so she could operate safely during the reopening period. And the SBAP monies also helped her operate through the cold winter months with the purchase of the greenhouses for outdoor seating. So that's obviously on the CDBG side of the funding. Within 2 months of introducing them, the greenhouses were booked every Friday and Saturday night, and often Saturday reservations sold out 2 weeks in advance. As spring approached and interest in ice cream rose again, it became impossible to keep up with demand by using the same equipment she started with. So the purchase of an ice cream machine has allowed her to manufacture ice cream faster and enabled her to experiment with more flavors so she can expand product offerings. She has hired a full-time employee to help with ice cream production and is training her for a managerial position at the Yard. Layla says, I am very grateful for this grant. Without it, I do not think I would have survived through the winter months and second surge. I think they say it, better than anybody can say it. These grants were saving businesses and helping them make it through. And hopefully, we'll continue to do that with the remaining of the grants that we're moving forward with reimbursement on. As a wrap up of this program, like I said earlier, we're trying to close this out before the end of October. The plan would be get as many of those reimbursements in as possible and completed. So the work on our side, staff side, is not yet over. We're going to have a hard push in these next 2 months to try and get those reimbursements in. And then ultimately we'll wrap up with a simple closeout document. It's probably going to be like a certification. We'll send them a thing saying close out that you did X, Y, Z and have them sign it and return it back to us. That's over.
Thank you, Ashley. It's so nice to see the impact that the grants had, that they were able to look to us for help when they needed it. I know probably most of these businesses are not out of the woods yet, but they're open and they're trying and they're being entrepreneurial, which is wonderful to see. And who knows, maybe they'll be a better business for it. Let's hope that. Anything else, Sarah?
The last piece on this program, just to note, we will obviously keep all documentation in-house. It is on file. That is part of the legislation. It's incredibly organized. It was the kitchen you could eat off the floor, right? So we will have that all as necessary.
These success stories and testimonials shared with the public in any platform?
We definitely will be doing that. Mike has been sharing some of the businesses on our Back to Business profile series that Capitalize Albany has been running up on the website. That's had incredibly great traction. The click rate in that newsletter is better than any of the other news that we put out. And we've had people asking to be featured with or without grants in that series. So that has been out there publicly. And, we did the early press release of this. We'll do a wrap up as well to access to all this.
With that, do we have a motion to adjourn? Second.